Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Optimist podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Hall. For the past several years, I've been a practicing mindset and personal development coach, guiding people of all ages to their empowerment and systematically teaching how to restructure your thinking patterns through my simple, practical methods and exercises I developed in my book, Positive Power: 12 Steps to Mastering Your Mindset. I have a 12-week program that takes you through the 12 steps and helps you break free and create the amazing, positive, and abundant life that you deserve. The link is in the description for both my book and my program and can be found at www.wealthyoptimist.com. In this podcast, we go deep into self-empowerment, conscious growth, and breaking free from emotionally painful traumatic experiences. You will learn how to allow yourself to let go of hurtful past events and shift your energy to a positive wavelength. Think of this as your weekly dose of inner power and personal growth. We will explore emotional intelligence, conscious evolution, psychology, and relationships both with ourselves and with others. Let love be your center. Learn to embrace love, to give love, and to express gratitude freely. This is the power you have within yourself, and I'm here to help you unleash it. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hi, good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Optimist podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Hall. I am really excited to be here with you and to be sharing this with you. I actually got up this morning at 5:30 a.m. to film this, and I needed to force myself out of bed. I'm not going to lie. It was difficult, and last night when I was lying in bed, I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get up at 6:30 and I'll be able to get a tiny bit of work done for myself before I start my job. And right before I was about to fall asleep, I thought, don't do that to yourself, Sarah. You are failing yourself you're cutting yourself short. You are by giving yourself that extra hour of sleep when that could be an extra hour of work that you're able to accomplish for yourself. So I rolled over and I turned my alarm back an hour and I set it for 5:30, and I just got up and got out of bed, and now I feel completely inspired and I'm incredibly happy that I did this so I can film this podcast for you and finally get this off the ground. Little bit of background, I recorded my first ever podcast episode for myself about 2 years ago, and I didn't end up publishing it in a major way. I did put it on SoundCloud, and then I carried around, it was right before I went traveling, and I was planning on doing a podcast a week while I was traveling, and I ended up doing a vlog series, which I guess in my brain I compensated as I didn't need to do a podcast because I was basically vlogging and that could be a podcast potentially, my entire journey, and I made several videos a day while I was traveling instead of doing a podcast a week. So I think I kind of just excused myself from making the podcast and following through with it. And now here we are 2 years later. It is May 18th, 2020. We are in lockdown still from the coronavirus pandemic, which has been a very frightening and scary time. I am recording this from my home, and if you're watching it on YouTube, you can see what I'm wearing. I mean, I wanted to remember this moment, and I almost didn't film it on video, and right before I was about to hit record, I decided that I want to remember this moment as a visual as well. And this is what I look like, this is what I'm doing, and my setup has my microphone with a stack of Harry Potter books holding it up. So if that isn't classic Sarah Hall, then I don't know what is. But I digress. Here we are doing the thing. If you're listening to this on iTunes or another blog podcast feed, then thanks for joining us. Feel free to hop over to my YouTube channel and check it out at some point. I would love to have you over there. We have a growing community, and it's just such a joy to connect with viewers both on my YouTube channel and my Instagram and Facebook, etc. So it would be great to connect with you over there. So let me tell you a little bit about what's been going on in my life these past couple of months. through the lockdown and how I've been dealing with it and experiencing it. And what my advice for you today is going to focus on is how you should be focusing on yourself during this time and not what others are doing or achieving, and steps for taking gratitude for what we have during it, and then an action plan for helping you to slowly, even if it's baby steps, to achieve your goals. So let's dive into that. And I'm excited to share those thoughts with you today. So thank you for joining. The lockdown yesterday was 2 months since I had officially been locked down from going into my office here in London. I work as a communications consultant for a company here in London called Invent, and we are based in Bloomsbury, which is near the British Museum. And they're a wonderful company, but on, I think it was Monday the 17th or Tuesday, March 17th, we got locked down from the pandemic, which has been happening, which is the coronavirus pandemic. Of course, you're aware of it. It's affected, I think, every country in the world now. And it's been quite a huge adjustment. It's been scary, depressing, frustrating, lonely, anxiety-inducing. It's been confusing. There are a lot of emotions that it's triggered for myself, and I realize and respect that there are a lot of emotions that it's triggered for a lot of people around the world. And for myself, the past 2 months, the first couple of weeks, I think it was a weird mixture for myself of mania, of productivity, and then also panic. I was sometimes full on panicking. I had my first panic attack in years. It had been years since I had a panic attack. I think the last time I had a full-on panic attack was a couple years after my sister passed away. So just a couple of years ago. And I haven't had a panic attack for maybe 2 years. And I think it was about 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks into working from home and the coronavirus pandemic and everything that's going on. I was, reading a lot of news updates, and I was just kind of overwhelming and stressing my brain out by thinking too much into it and reading too much about it and the media propaganda. And I had a panic attack that lasted about an hour, and it was an awful feeling. And thank God for my mom. I talked to her on the phone on FaceTime, and she kind of talked me through it, but it was an awful, awful feeling. And I realized after that panic attack that I needed to stop watching the news so much. I needed to put up boundaries so that I could live in a state that I developed for myself instead of a state that was being dictated by what the media was saying about it, what my friends were saying about it, what people were sharing on social media about it. I needed to regulate what was going into my brain and what thoughts I was receiving and how I felt and reacted to the virus. I needed to be in control of that. And I've been practicing Stoicism for the past, I guess, how long? A year. And one of the things that, and in my book that I wrote several years ago, is I practice a lot on the fact that the only thing that we can control is our mind and our mindset and our thoughts and our actions that we have and the reactions that we have to other people's actions. And for us to live in a state of fear or anxiety or gratitude, it's really a choice of what state we want to live in. And now it's been 2 months since we've been locked down, and I can imagine that you have felt a mixture of these emotions as well. That if you're listening to this, it could have been, you could have been on either side of the spectrum like I was, highly productive, highly stressed, not sleeping properly, feeling all of the things, and that's okay. It's okay to be where you're at right now. It's okay to sometimes embrace the nothingness, the doing nothing, the uncertainty, and it's also wonderful if you're able to be productive, but it's not about focusing on what other people are doing or achieving during this time. It's about focusing on what you are doing for yourself. And I heard this great quote, and it said that you are not working from home, you are working from home during a crisis. And that is a very different energy than just somebody who works from home. And I know this firsthand because I've been working from home on and off for a decade. So, as a writer and a coach and an author and a vlogger and all of these different things that I do, I also used to do acting back in Vancouver, which was only a year ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. But as somebody that does these things, I'm very used to working from home. And the energy that I had when I was working from home without this crisis impacting it and forcing me to be working from home was very different energy than I have now, where I have to really, I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic outside. I hope you can't, but I'm not going to edit this out. But the energy that I have is very different because I'm now being forced to stay at home and I can't take myself somewhere else to work. So when I used to maybe get bored of seeing the same four walls, I would go to a cafe or to a restaurant and bring my laptop, and I would go for a walk with my voice recorder, and I would do all of the things that made me feel, more inspired and creative. And now, none of us are able to do that. And aside from people working from home, I truly want to express that my solidarity with the people that are also have lost their jobs. I mean, I have a huge amount of acquaintances and friends back in Vancouver who work in the film industry who have completely lost their jobs. And it's been a very stressful time for them. And I want to also the people that are essential workers. I mean, every one of us is experiencing a different level of crisis mode. Some of us are working from home. Some of us are forced to keep going to work and not knowing if we're going to get sick. Some of us have lost our jobs or have been furloughed here in the UK, which means that they're basically put on an indefinite type of paid vacation status where they can get called back at any time, but are being paid to stay home essentially and not work. Every one of us is dealing with it differently. So it's important for us to focus on ourselves during this time, what we are able to do, and to have gratitude for what we currently have in the state that we're in. I mean, I'm incredibly grateful to have, my apartment here in the UK and have a safe space that I'm able to work and to be, even if that being is being stressed out at that time. And our well-being really does lie in our actions. And when we can understand that when we're seeking to be well, we should be seeking that with the understanding that we can only be well and to manage our well-being through our own actions. So my camera just actually was full. So this is a real authentic podcast recording. We have all kinds of things happening and cameras turning off on us. So what I was saying is that no matter what it is that you're focusing on doing, whether it's taking care of yourself or it's working on a new goal or working from home or, going to work during the crisis, it's important for you to find some kind of satisfaction in what you're doing, so that you can find that well-being in what you're creating. And if you're able to find that joy in what it is that you're doing, then you'll always find satisfaction in your job. So it's important to take pleasure from our own actions and to understand that the results that come from those actions is what we should be chasing instead of focusing on how people are going to receive what we are putting out. And I hope that makes sense to you. It's the understanding that we should be, using our full capabilities and being joyful in the creation of our work and the achievement of our goals, as opposed to wondering and procrastinating on it and perhaps not creating it because we're not sure how it's going to be received by the public. So there's that old saying, if you love what you'll do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's true. It's very true. And wherever you're at in your life right now, in this stage of crisis or outside of the coronavirus pandemic in your day-to-day life, if you're stuck and not being able to motivate yourself to achieve your goals, you need to find the focus on how you're responding to your own actions and that self-critic inside yourself. What are you telling yourself every day? And how are you showing up for yourself in your business, in your goals, in your personal life to create that sense of well-being within yourself? And that brings me back to me getting up at 5:30 this morning when I didn't want to, and now I feel amazing. So I'm bright-eyed, I'm happy. I love getting up early, and over the winter, I think I've kind of, kept kind of pushing it off a little bit. I still got up at 6:30, but I wasn't getting up at 5 like I did all last summer for several months. And I remember last summer I was feeling amazing and I was energetic and I was going to the gym and I was doing this and I was doing that and I was creating so much and I was getting so many videos done and I was, all of this stuff. And it's because I was giving myself that extra bit of time for my well-being. I was getting up earlier so that I could, meditate in the morning. I could write down my goals for the day. I could, take some time to think and reflect, and then I could dive right into the work. And I am the most creative in the morning. I know that about myself. And because I know that about myself, if I get into the habit of doing that for myself and getting up in the morning and doing the work first thing in the morning instead of trying to do it later on in the evening after my job, then when my mental capacity is all used up, if I try to work at 7 p.m., I'm not going to want to do it. And I know that about myself. And it's a matter of finding for yourself, what do you know about yourself to be true? That you can find the time and carve out that time for you to be able to achieve your goals. And my next point, that's going to lead me to my next point, is to being grateful for what you do have and counting your blessings, because a lot of the times we are our own worst critic. Not a lot of times, all the time. We're our own worst critic. And we can get into this loop of procrastination, self-doubt, worry, stress, uncertainty, where we're not sure, and that we stop believing in ourselves. And that's a very toxic cycle. And we can be the most toxic person to ourselves. And we can read a million things about cutting out toxic people. And sometimes the worst person that's being toxic is ourselves. And, the way to overcome that is to live in a state of gratitude, and counting the blessings that you actually have is an excellent way to shift from the have not to the have mindset, and to transform our thought process, because every day we need to be grateful for what we have and live in that state of abundance and joy, instead of letting the self-critic berate us for not having and not doing enough. And then through that mindset shift, you will start doing and creating and having more, because you're living in that state. You are drawing into your life what you desire. And if you live in the opposite state of negativity and self-criticism and doubt and insecurity and putting things off, procrastinating, and you will draw more and 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 more of that into your life. Trust me, I promise you, it will happen. You will draw that into your life constantly, consistently. It will become a downward spiral that you may already be in right now. You may be resonating with what I'm saying. And taking a tiny little step, just like I did, of getting up at 5:30, just getting the F out of bed and just doing the thing, okay? That's one step, and it's not even that big of a step, and it can be a little bit scary, and you can talk yourself out of it really easily. Trust me, you can. I could have easily just turned my alarm off, gone back to bed for another hour, and put this off another 2 years, like I could have easily done that, but I didn't. And thank God I didn't, because this is important to me. And now I'm able to share this message that I hope helps somebody who's listening in some way. And I am grateful for that. And I want you to try to live in that state of gratitude as well, to just appreciate and take advantage of what you do have and the skills that you do have, because there is something inside of every one of us, and you are able to use that to your power to create what it is that you dream of and to live that life of abundance that you want and desire. And you're capable of it. And I know that you are. And I know that I am. And we're going to go through this podcast series, learning about how to create more of that and to live in that state, and practice the steps that I teach in my book, and that I coach in my day-to-day life, and that I'm learning, so you can come on this process with me. And I'm excited to share that with you. And we're going to be doing that throughout this entire series, which I'm really excited about. And this is just the beginning. So it's very important to be grateful for everything. And I'm very grateful for everybody who's tuning in today and being here for this. This is a groundbreaking moment. And I've dressed accordingly. For those who can't see me, I'm wearing a giant pink fluffy horrible sweater. But it's very comfy. It's like one of those teddy bear sweaters. You probably know the ones if you are a millennial listening to this. And if you can see it, I hope I described it properly. We are having all kinds of moments filming this podcast. Now my camera battery died, so we're going on. The next thing I want to talk about is taking it one day at a time. Now, Jerry Seinfeld, I'm not sure if everybody knows who Jerry Seinfeld is. I hope that you do. Seinfeld is a hilarious show. I watched it so much growing up. Jerry Seinfeld is a comedian, and he once told a younger comedian a lesson about how to create material. And he told him that he takes a calendar and puts it on his wall, and every day that he writes jokes, he puts an X on the calendar. And that creating the habit of making content for himself as a comedian is a series of these X's and a series of not breaking that chain. Because once you get going, you've got a chain of X's. And through that, you're creating a habit. And habits can be created through that method, but you can also take away negative habits in the same method. And so if you want to change something that's bad about yourself, maybe during this coronavirus time or outside of it, you've been, in maybe eating a lot of junk food, or you've been not drinking enough water, or you've been not exercising, or you've been procrastinating, or you've been acting, you've had a bad attitude, or you've been living in an anxious state, or you've been angry at people, or whatever the bad habit is that you have, or, drinking too much, or the like, whatever that bad habit is that you want to erase, you can literally take it one day at a time. It's that same method of creating a new habit is the same method of taking away bad habits. It's living one day at a time. And that's the whole, what is it, AA, who says, one day at a time for sobriety. And they give you, little, what do they call, little tags or coins or something that say, congratulations on your next day, and so on and so on and so on until you get to like a month. I think you get like a month tag, and then a year, and so on and so on and so on. And so my point of this is that if you want to create new habits, you're just going to have to force yourself to take things one day at a time. And if you want to take away negative habits, you can do that, and it coincides with creating a new healthy habit by taking it one day at a time. So one day at a time, you can get up earlier in the morning, and then one day at a time, you can also, you can check yourself when you're living in an anxious state. So say, for example, if you want to conquer anxiety and anxious thoughts, you can go through and take your calendar out, and every time that you feel anxious throughout the day, the important thing is to check in with yourself. Why am I feeling anxious? Can I accept this anxiety and bring it along with me in order to take away its power? And when you are consciously checking in on yourself, you're taking that power away from the anxiety. And that is a step towards overcoming the anxiety and transforming how you deal with it and how you handle it. And in that sense, that would be the creation of breaking the habit of anxious thought. So you could put an X on the calendar every time that you get through a day where you have checked in with yourself and therefore acknowledged and accepted and conquered the anxiety for that day. And slowly, over time, it is a process and it is hard work. It is very hard work, don't get me wrong. Slowly over time, you will be able to transform your thought patterns and the anxiety will affect you less and you will feel better about yourself and you'll be able to have more space in your mind for more creative processes, more positive living, different things of that nature. So no matter what it is that you want to get rid of, whatever bad habit it is, if it's an addiction, if it's worry, if it's procrastination, if it's excuses that you make for yourself, because a lot of people have a lot of really big goals and dreams, but they have a lot. Can you hear my stomach rumbling? I need to eat. A lot of people have a lot of excuses and they want to achieve so much, but because they excuse themselves from achieving it, they give themselves a reason to talk themselves out of it. They're actually living one day at a time in a negative way. They're just kind of like getting through every day. And in that sense, you're not living to your full potential. You're not living your life. You're not taking care of yourself and your mind and your well-being as you should. And you're going to create a more toxic environment for yourself. And you are the most valuable person in your life in the sense that even if you have family and kids and everything, because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of those people. You cannot take care of your kids properly. You cannot be there for your spouse. You cannot show up for your family. You can't, and you won't. And it won't be a happy and healthy relationship. You won't be living in a happy and healthy mindset. You won't be able to function at your job. You won't be able to do anything if you're not taking care of yourself and valuing yourself above everything else, even above your kids. I know it sounds horrible. Don't berate me for this, but you cannot take care of them. And what are you going to teach them? And, you're always the best parent before you have kids. I don't have kids. And so I'm a great parent right now. But I'm sure when I'm in the situation, I'm going to be very different. But, we're learning, a work in progress, of course. But what are you going to teach them if you are constantly showing them every day that you're not taking care of yourself, or you're angry and you're yelling at them, or you have a short fuse and you react quickly, and your house is in a state of turmoil, or you're in a state of turmoil? What are you teaching them? They're going to pick up on everything that you're doing. I have some friends and I can't even talk to them on the phone because they're just constantly screaming at their kids, and I'm like, okay, gotta go, and now I don't talk to them because it's just, over years and years and years, they just haven't changed. And I don't think, maybe some people don't want to change, but if you're listening to this today, you're listening to this for a reason, and it's because you want to change, and you can change. Everybody can change. And I believe in you, and I believe that you have the power to make those changes and those transformations for yourself. Because I believe in you, and I believe that you have the power to make those changes for yourself. Every single one of us do. And you'll feel better for it. And you just have to remember, what I'm saying here is to focus on yourself, be grateful for what you have, take it one day at a time, and remember that you are a work in progress. You are a project. You're your biggest project in your life. And everything else put aside, if you don't conquer your well-being first and foremost, your health, your physical health, eating properly, treating your mind right, being able to conquer your mind, conquer anxiety, anxious thoughts, worry, anger, how you react, then you're not going to be able to achieve everything else. So the first thing to deal with is that state of well-being. and to remember that consistency is the way to transforming how you think and how you react to situations. And it's a practice of daily consistency, daily execution, and daily actions. And so now, what are you going to do today? What one small thing, one small step that's going to help you towards your goal? Is it even just writing down a list of your goals? Is it just getting out that pen and paper and just kind of beginning the journey, having a look at what it is that is a negative habit that you have, writing those down, really being honest with yourself, focusing in on yourself, and seeing yourself for who you are. Because when you're alone at home and you know who you are inside, you know your flaws, you know where you're going wrong, you know what you're doing, you know every day what you're focusing your energy on instead of what you need to be doing. And when you are in this state right now and you're leaving this podcast, and you can take a few minutes to write down those things, write down what's holding you back, write down what you're doing, that where you're focusing your attention, write down where you could be focusing your attention more, write down your goals, your dreams, write down the steps that you're going to take. And it can be just that one thing. And it sounds like a lot of people don't want to take this first step because it's scary. It's a scary thing to self-actualize and to practice some self-realization and to look deep inside and to see, who am I? Who am I showing up for? Am I showing up for myself? Am I doing the things I need to do? And as I said, we're our own worst critic, and we don't want to show up. We don't want to take away those layers and to see that we're the one to blame. We're not successful because of what we're doing and not doing in our day-to-day. And although if you're listening to this and you're still in the pandemic, be gentle with yourself, but outside of, and don't look at what other people are doing. Some people are insanely proactive right now, and good for them. Good for, if you're one of those people, good job. But give yourself some rest time as well too. And if you're somebody that's stuck, then just do that one small thing. And do that for yourself today. Just write down where you can find what negative habits are going, what loop that you're in, what thinking traps that you might have. I'll dive into thinking traps in another episode as well too. But thinking traps are, catastrophic thinking, or worrying, or fortune telling, or trying to be perfect, and therefore stopping yourself from ever doing anything, because you're always like getting ready to do it. And you don't need to be that way. You just got to do it sometimes. And that's the other reason why I wanted to make sure I did film this, because I have no makeup on. I decided to just do it, and it wasn't the best perhaps. I've got my stomach grumbling because I'm hungry. It's early. I've got to, I've got to get ready for work soon. I had to force myself out of bed, but you know what? I feel amazing for doing it. And I think that by being raw with you, and by showing you, and by you listening to what I'm going through to get to this point, I hope that you can take some of that and take that for yourself, and put that into your own life by doing that one small thing that's going to help you towards your goals today. And I really look forward to hearing feedback on this podcast and what you thought about it, and if you enjoyed it. And I enjoyed having you here with me. Every day we're going to be, not every day, but every week we're going to be diving into more of this. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to be talking about on the podcast. This is the kind of stuff that I talk about in my book, which is going to be relaunched very shortly. And I'm very excited about it. It's being redone, and I'm very excited about that. And I cannot wait to share that with you all. And I have a coaching program as well too that's being launched. And I'm just so excited to share that with everybody. And I hope that you will subscribe to this. I hope that you will follow along. And I hope that you will give me some feedback, some comments, if you enjoyed it, if you learned something from it, if you wish I would talk about certain subjects throughout the podcast. I would love to know suggestions that you have, that you would like to see and experience through this journey with me. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. And I will see you on the next episode. Have a great day. And it is Monday today. So have a wonderful week and lots of love to all of you. Thank you. All right, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I am so grateful for you to be able to take this time for yourself, that you chose to make the conscious decision to be here today, to listen to this, to share this message with somebody else who could value from it. I really appreciate your reviews, your positive reviews, and sharing with the community what you valued out of this lesson today. If you can think of somebody who really needs to hear this message, please share it with them. There is nothing better for me than receiving a podcast or a video or a positive message from somebody that I love that totally changes my outlook on the day. So please pass this on forward to other people. And don't forget to come over to my website, www.wealthyoptimist.com, so that you can connect with me and dive into your transformational journey with our 12-week program. Completely breaking free from your past traumas, from your past mistakes, from your past negative energies, and just being able to release all of that and move forwards in our 12-step program that's accompanied by my book, Positive Power, the 12 Steps to Mastering Your Mindset. And I really look forward to having you join as part of our community. Thank you so much for taking the time today to do this for you. I am sending you all the love for a beautiful, wonderful day that you have ahead of you, or a wonderful sleep if you're listening to this in the evening. Until next time.